Hello friends, neighbors, and fellow VEDSies. It is day 6 of VEDS, and you're going to see me wearing the same shirt in the next few videos once again, because I'm doing this again. So I was going to make this video basically a blanket response to all of the VEDSies and the stuff that they've done so far, because with me making videos in advance and the first 5 videos being made well before September started, I haven't really had a chance to actually respond to what the other VEDSies are doing yet, other than in the comments of their videos. But then I saw one of Tessa's videos about fandoms and being a fan of things, and it got me thinking enough that I decided to make a video about the subject. So thanks, Tessa, for giving me a video idea. That's kind of what VEDS is about. So basically the video was about how Tessa is kind of struggling with the definition of fandom, the definition of being a fan of something. What constitutes actually being a fan of something? Is it just enough to like it? Do you have to go back and look at it many, many times? Do you have to eagerly await everything that comes out from that thing that you're a fan of? One of the examples she gave was Star Wars. She considers herself a Star Wars fan in spite of the fact that she has not seen nor does not plan to see The Last Jedi. And then on the flip side, she gave another example, Mamma Mia, which she does not consider herself a fan of, even though she has seen, it sounds like, every possible iteration of that show. I don't know, I'm not really familiar with it, so I'll just take your word for it. Now ultimately, of course, being a fan of something is largely subjective. You get to decide whether you are a fan of a particular thing. Obviously, I don't want to get into the whole you're not a real fan of a thing unless you've done this and this and this and this, because that's an incredibly, incredibly toxic attitude to have. But for myself, I do kind of draw a distinction between liking something, being a fan of something, and being involved in the fandom of something. To me, yes, it is possible to like or enjoy something without necessarily being a fan of it. I take kind of the literal definition of the word fan as short for fanatic. If you are a fanatic of something, meaning that you basically fully immerse yourself in it and almost borderline, or even not so much borderline, obsess over it, then you're more of a fan of something as opposed to just liking it. So, for example, I like The Great British Bake Off. I greatly enjoy watching it, but it's not something that I fully immerse myself in. And to that end, there are certain things that don't necessarily lend themselves to full immersion, and I think Great British Bake Off is one of those things. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm sure that it is, but it's not really on that level. Although, come to think of it, we do own, I think, 2 or 3 books that were inspired by or written by contestants or judges on the Great British Bake Off, so maybe I am a fan of it. I think Mamma Mia kind of falls into that category as well. I obviously don't know that much about it, but I think it's something that it is possible to really enjoy getting into, but it's not something that necessarily lends itself to fanaticism. Like, to the best of my knowledge, there's not a Mamma Mia convention anywhere. Although, again, I could be, well, actually, wouldn't that just be an ABBA concert? When you're looking at something like, say, Star Trek, I would definitely say that I am a fan of Star Trek because I have fully immersed myself in that world. In general, I think it's a lot easier to be a fan of something that creates its own world, its own universe. So a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, which is why sci-fi and fantasy is what primarily has the big fandoms. Because with something like Mamma Mia or Great British Bake Off, once you've watched the show or watched the movie or whatever it is, that's pretty much all there is to it. There's not much more for you to do aside from watch it again. But with something like Star Trek, after you've watched the episodes and watched the movies, there's still a whole lot more that you can get into. You can buy supplemental material, you can buy novels, you can go online and look up information about the universe. There's just a plethora of things to do because they have created their own universe. Same for things like Star Wars and Doctor Who and Harry Potter and, again, fantasy and sci-fi. However, when it comes to Star Trek, I am a fan of it, but I'm not really involved in the fandom. And honestly, I don't want to be. I find the Star Trek fandom to be hugely problematic in a lot of ways. I really don't have a desire to jump into the fandom full force. When it comes to being a part of the fandom, there I would cite Harry Potter, because I have been involved in that fandom, though I'm not as much anymore. But I mean, that's basically why I started making YouTube videos, because I found a bunch of people online who were also super interested in Harry Potter, and I became involved in that world. So that's my take on the matter. I do think that there is a distinction to be made between liking something and being a fan of it. That's just my definition of it. It's very personal to me, and I'm sure that other people will have their own individual thoughts on the matter, which they should feel free to leave in the comments or make a video. Or leave in the comments of Tessa's video, since she's the one who first came up with the idea. So that's it for this video. Tomorrow I will be making a video responding to some of the other material that the VEDSies are putting out, including issuing some challenges. Always fun to see 2010 Matt. So until then, friends, neighbors, and fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.